Have you ever felt in a social gathering as if everyone else is flawlessly acting out an invisible script, and you are the only one who has forgotten your role? In a room where everyone else is laughing, talking, and walking with confidence, not knowing how to take your own steps or where to put your hands, feeling like an utter stranger can be incredibly draining. This very feeling is shyness itself, a force that traps a person inside their own mind and builds invisible walls against the outside world. Shyness is a universal condition that we encounter almost every day in daily life, sometimes observing it in a stranger on the street, and sometimes experiencing it in its deepest form within our own inner world. However, this feeling, which is often dismissed as an ordinary personality trait, is actually a silent problem that prevents individuals from revealing their true potential, causes them to miss out on life, and if left unresolved, creates highly serious social, psychological, and even physical difficulties. To understand how this complex condition can lead to concrete and sometimes dangerous consequences in human life, looking at a childhood incident that seems simple at first glance is highly illustrative. Let's say something is needed at a home, and the parents send their shy child to the local grocery store to get it. The child goes to the store with that familiar apprehension inside, but due to their anxiety and haste, they buy the wrong item and return home. When they get home, the parent notices the mistake and naturally asks them to go back to the store and exchange the product. At this exact point, a request that would be completely ordinary for a non-shy child turns into a nightmare for the shy child. Swept by a massive wave of anxiety, they say they do not want to go, whine, and resist. In order to resolve the situation and help the child overcome their fear, the parent sends them back, accompanied by their younger, socially more outgoing sibling. As they walk, disaster scenarios fly through the shy child's head. Will the grocer be mad at me? Will he make fun of me because I got it wrong? When they arrive at the store's entrance, while the younger sibling walks in with childish ease to complete the chore, the shy child chooses to hide behind a car parked on the street to avoid being seen by the shopkeeper and people nearby. They simply want to hide and escape the immediate social pressure. However, to an onlooker, a child hiding behind a car and peering inside cuts a highly suspicious figure. A passing resident or the car owner, thinking the child has bad intentions, perhaps trying to damage the vehicle or commit a theft, shouts at them harshly and marches toward them. The child, whose already high anxiety peaks, is caught completely off guard. Instead of defending themselves or explaining the situation, they flee without question or looking back, driven by overwhelming fear. Saying them run, the bystander feels vindicated in their suspicion and begins to give chase, instantly turning the situation into a pursuit. Ultimately, the child is stopped physically, faces an unjust accusation, and as the surrounding crowd gets involved, the incident escalates to the authorities and even the police. What started as a simple matter of exchanging a product has, due to the avoidance behavior bred by shyness, led to the child facing the threat of physical violence and a traumatic accusation. This shocking example clearly demonstrates that shyness is not just an abstract feeling gnawing away at an individual from the inside, but can have massive, unpredictable, and serious real-world consequences for physical and social safety. This childhood memory is actually a foundational prototype of similar problems that many people experience under different masks and at various levels in their adult life. When we step into the adult world, shyness is no longer limited to avoiding a trip to the local store. It manifests as intense anxiety and paralyzing fear when making a presentation at work, defending our ideas in front of a group, attending an important job interview, or even calling into a radio show, or asking a question at a seminar. In such critical moments that directly affect their careers, many people are so afraid of their voices trembling, forgetting what they were going to say, or making fools of themselves that they withdraw completely. Yet, even if this feeling of shyness continues to awaken within us from time to time, it is entirely possible to overcome this obstacle completely by confronting it with determination. pushing the boundaries of our comfort zones and applying the right strategies. So, what exactly is this shyness that virtually locks us up in social settings, and what psychological mechanisms are at play in the background? In its most general and scientific definition, shyness is a state of anxiety and apprehension manifested through physical and mental symptoms that an individual feels in situations where they need to express themselves or interact with others. This problem stems from the maladaptation of the deep-seated fight or flight response to social situations. In primitive times, the human brain would alert the body to survive when faced with physical danger. The brain of a shy individual, however, perceives the possibility of rejection, criticism, or exclusion in a social setting as if it were a physical life or death threat, activating the exact same alarm system. In practical life, this manifests itself in two main dimensions: physical and emotional. On the physical dimension, when shy individuals are forced to express themselves or feel that all eyes are on them, sudden physiological changes occur in their bodies. The autonomic nervous system goes into overdrive. Heart rate accelerates, a feeling of tightness forms in the chest, and breathing quickens. A sudden wave of heat washes over them, which usually manifests outwardly as blushing of the face and ears. The person feels their hands shaking and their voice cracking. When they try to speak, words seem to catch in their throat. They feel like they are stuttering, or they actually start to stutter out of excitement. These physical symptoms are so concrete and uncomfortable that a person may avoid social situations entirely just out of fear that these symptoms will be noticed by others. However, this problem is not limited to these bothersome physical symptoms. The truly challenging and draining part occurs at the emotional and mental level. During a social interaction, the mind of a shy person becomes a virtual battlefield. A succession of highly destructive and unrealistic negative thoughts develops that everyone around is focused solely on them, looking for their slightest flaw, secretly mocking them, or finding them inadequate and incompetent. Due to this cognitive distortion, known in psychology as the spotlight effect, the individual constantly feels as though they are standing right in the center of a massive theater stage, under a bright spotlight, with thousands of people watching intently, waiting for them to make the slightest mistake. In reality, people are mostly occupied with their own worlds, their own anxieties, and their own appearances. No one observes anyone else as closely or judgmentally as the shy individual believes. Yet, knowing this fact logically does not suffice to reduce the emotional intensity they feel in the moment. Because of these paralyzing anxieties, individuals willingly avoid many golden opportunities, even though they could perhaps be highly successful speakers, make wonderful contributions to their organizations with their ideas, express themselves perfectly on an artistic or intellectual level, or build a broad quality social circle that would bring joy to their lives. They retreat into their shells, choose silence, and bury their potential. Thus, shyness is not just temporary bashfulness, but one of the greatest practical barriers preventing individuals from self-actualization and leading a happy, fulfilling life. At this point, a vital question comes to mind. How is it possible to break the chains of shyness and liberate oneself from this prison? If this condition is so advanced that it causes a person to completely lose their daily functionality, even preventing them from leaving the house, it may have reached the level of social phobia or social anxiety disorder. In such a case, seeking professional support from a psychiatrist or clinical psychologist without delay is the best course of action. However, if the situation is more of a mild to moderate level of apprehension, something that complicates life but hasn't stopped it entirely and can be tackled individually, there are highly powerful, scientifically proven methods you can apply on your own. Foremost and most effective among these methods is the technique known in clinical psychology as gradual exposure, systematic desensitization. To begin this process, the first thing you need to do is write down an honest list of all the situations that trigger anxiety in you, that you hesitate to do, or that make you feel embarrassed. Grab a pen and paper and write everything down without limiting your mind. For example, list items one by one. Asking a stranger on the street for the time, calling a waiter in a cafe to change an order, expressing my opinion in a business meeting, complimenting someone I just met, giving a 5-minute presentation in front of a group. Then, rate these situations on a scale of 0 to 100 based on the anxiety level they cause, and arrange them in a logical order from easiest to hardest. During this preparation phase, the minds of shy individuals immediately trigger defense mechanisms. They get anxious and try to avoid confronting these situations by making excuses like, "I can never do this. What will people say to me?" Or "Why bother? I'm fine just as I am." However, a painful but crucial truth must be accepted. It is absolutely impossible to overcome shyness simply by sitting in your comfortable room at home reading books, watching personal development videos, or seeking completely safe and easy ways out. Shyness is as much a behavioral habit as it is a mental lock, and the only way to break this habit is to take action. You must approach the situations on your list with determination, starting from the easiest step, that is, the one that causes you the least anxiety. For example, if the easiest step on your list is asking a passerby for the time, push yourself to do this several times a day. The first time, your heart might race and your voice might tremble. This is perfectly natural and part of the process. As you ask the question despite your fear, receive the answer, and see that the other person simply tells you the time and goes on their way, meaning the world didn't end. The perception of a social threat in your mind will begin to shatter. As you successfully complete the situations at the easiest level and begin to feel comfortable there, your self-confidence will grow exponentially, and you will find the courage needed to move on to the next, more difficult step. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to take action despite it. If you do not push your limits gradually like this, and choose to flee to your old safe harbor at every difficulty, shyness will resolutely continue to prevent you from getting the promotion you deserve in your career, condemn you to loneliness in your friendships, and keep you from achieving the success you deserve in your education. Another area where shyness manifests itself in the most ruthless and destructive way is undoubtedly interpersonal relationships with the opposite sex. Shy individuals face extremely serious difficulties in approaching people they are emotionally interested in and wish to share life with, starting healthy communication and expressing their feelings. Saying a simple hello to someone they like can seem like an insurmountable mountain. The fear of rejection, feelings of inadequacy, and the anxiety of what if I make a fool of myself are so dominant that they imprison themselves in silent, unrequited loves and platonic suffering that last for years. They wait for the other person to notice them, but this rarely happens, and ultimately, they have to settle for watching others' happy relationships from afar. Over time, this leads to a deep sense of loneliness, feelings of worthlessness, and a chronic melancholy. This is precisely why, when faced with such a problem, rather than silently accepting the situation, resigning to fate, or constantly delaying the solution by saying, "This is just who I am," confronting the issue without delay is of vital importance for your quality of life and future happiness. Show compassion to yourself, but also be disciplined in improving yourself. Take a small step every day. Step outside your comfort zone and shatter those false limits in your mind one by one. You will see that this fear, which shrinks as you confront it, will eventually give way to a free and self-confident individual who has discovered their own potential. Never forget that you are not alone on this path, and that every small step you take brings you closer to a freer life. Your thoughts on this subject and how you fight shyness in your own life are very valuable to me. You, too, can create a massive space for mutual support by sharing in the comments section the opportunities you missed because of shyness, the interesting experiences you have had, or your own unique methods for overcoming this obstacle. If you feel this content has guided you and opened your horizons, do not forget to like the video, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to support one another on our journey of personal growth. See you in our next deep dive and development journey. Take very good care of yourself and never stop pushing your limits.